This afternoon, Donald Trump, frantically smashing every knob and every lever at his disposal, is urging the American people to pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Because while at times his ability to warp the truth and conjure false realities for his supporters has felt like wizardry, this hour, these smoke and mirrors are right there in front of us. According to the very latest Reuters Ipsos poll, Trump's approval is scraping along at 33%. That number is the lowest it's been at any point in either of his terms for the second such survey in a row. No surprise, he's even pulling the old Wizard of Oz routine on his poor polling, insisting it's all fake, the stuff of radical left Democrats designed to demoralize Republicans. But tall tales can't change reality for him or anyone else. Part of it has to do with the wholly unpopular standoff with Iran, and there's fresh data to share with you on that topic in a few moments. But first, consider this. Today's developments related to another war he started, the trade dispute with Canada. This morning, Canadian officials went public with their plans for retaliation. Watch.
Today, I'm announcing that Canada will match the United States tariffs dollar for dollar, rate for rate. The terms proposed by the U.S. administration were uneconomic, unfair, and ultimately unacceptable. They asked too much of Canada and offered too little in return.
On the central dynamic in this broadening and unwanted conflict, David Frum writes, quote, "Against Canada, Trump is fighting a trade war that very few Americans support, under leadership that most Americans reject, to achieve results that virtually all Americans would dismiss as pointless, if not crazy. Quote, against Trump, Canadians are fighting a trade war that the great majority support, under leadership that commands broad assent to defend their independence and self-respect. That's a war that even the weaker side can win, especially if it needs to hold on only a few months longer to survive." In the face of that disparity and a bankruptcy of actual ideas, Trump's doing the hocus-pocus thing again in the form of a photo posted to social media with Lake Ontario crossed out and Lake America emblazoned in tacky gold letters. Shooting our coverage, staff writer at The Atlantic, video podcast host David Frum is here. Also with us, Media Matters for America President Angelo Carusone. Molly is still with us. David Frum, at what point do Americans get sick of all the winning?
Well, you're seeing a little light over my right-hand shoulder. That is the sunshine glinting off Lake Ontario, as it's still called by all who border the lake. One of the things I think that needs to be emphasized in that clip you just ran is that the damage that this trade war is doing to the United States is not done primarily by Canadian retaliation. It's done by the tariffs themselves. And let me give you a very concrete example. Aluminum is a product that goes into just about everything, from beer cans to home appliances, aircraft, the industrial roofing. About a quarter of America's aluminum comes from Canada because America doesn't produce enough and never will. Aluminum is densely consuming of electricity. Canada is a superpower in electricity. The result of these tariffs on Canada are that manufacturers in Japan pay about $3,000 a ton for aluminum. Manufacturers in Europe, the UK, pay $3,000 a ton for aluminum. In the United States, manufacturers pay $5,000 a ton for aluminum. That's not because of anything Canada did. That's because of what Trump did.
I just wonder, Angelo, how quickly that reality catches up with him.
It depends on who you're talking about and which earth you're on, because obviously in the larger context, most Americans, it's going to catch up really fast. People are going to feel it almost immediately. The part that I was surprised by, though, was how the rest of the right-wing media is reacting, because you'd think that there'd be a little bit more skepticism, especially now. Maybe they wouldn't attack him. I didn't expect that, but that they wouldn't be so excited about this. And that's the part that I found weird, is that in the last day, since this is all sort of unfolded, the larger right-wing media ecosystem is fully behind him. And in fact, and it's not just that they're behind him, they're even pushing a larger narrative to make it make sense. They're basically turning Canada into China. It's the only way that they can try to make this make sense. And that's been a big argument that they've been pushing. And so I think in that ecosystem, in the big part of the diehards, they're actually going to get further separated from reality. Any of the pain they feel, they'll attribute it to something else or just mentally block it out. Obviously, the rest of us, as you sort of talked about in the polls leading in, those numbers are going to get worse for him. But he'll still have his backstop.
I want you to take a listen. Alex Tabbitt, our colleague, spoke to a Trump voter in Iowa who I think can give you a sense of the way that this is all trickling down. Take a listen.
As a mother, what is it like living with these economic conditions?
It's hard. It makes me feel like I'm a horrible mother sometimes because I'm stressing about what I'm going to do, or do I have enough money to put gas in, or do I need to buy eggs and milk for my child, or do I need to not go to work every day to make that money because gas prices are so expensive. And then we're always told, you know, this is going to change, or I'm going to make this better, or we're going to make this better, but where's it at? We're not seeing it at all.
You know, Molly, so much of policy can feel amorphous, but that, what she just described right there, that feels real. She can feel it every day in her life, and that drives voters to the polls.
Yeah, and remember, all of the gas prices, it's not a mystery how this happened, right? Trump went to war with Iran, they closed the strait, as everyone said they would, and gas prices went up. I mean, this is not rocket science. And in fact, he spent he spent a lot of time talking about how the war was over and then gas prices went down and the war's back on, So he really showed that he was actually the reason this was happening. But I think what I'm so struck by is that we're cruising into the midterms and he's decided to go to trade war with Canada when the states that he desperately needs to win, Michigan, Maine, Alaska, have gubernatorials and Senate races, and they are states that, Michigan especially, trade a lot with Canada. People are going back and forth all the time. If ever there were a ill-timed trade war, this would be it. And the other thing which I think is really worth mentioning is the whole point of tariffs is to onshore manufacturing. It's to get things to be built in this country. And we know now, because we're almost 2 years into these trade wars, that it isn't working. So then what are we doing? If it's not onshoring manufacturing, then why are you putting on the tariffs? And that I don't understand.
I want you, David Frum, to pick up on the argument Molly is making here, because now you have the vice president being dispatched to Maine to carry the president's water. You have Susan Collins running as far away from them and their disastrous trade policies as she possibly can. You're watching that with candidates all over the country, including in Montana. I mean, I just wonder how much running room, how much distance these candidates are going to be given to put between themselves and this administration.
How much running room they're given, I don't know. How much running room they will take is up to them. Think of that poor woman that in Iowa. 30% of Iowa's exports as a state go to the Canadian market. It's not just Michigan and Ohio that are heavily Canadian dependent. It's all kinds of states. And if that woman goes shopping, and if she is down shrinking her food budget and looking for cheaper alternatives, if she buys spaghetti for her family, that's probably made from durum wheat that probably came from Canada. So these are intensely integrated markets. It's like fighting a trade war with Canada is like dropping the anchor through your side of the boat, hoping that the water will stay on the Canadian side of the boat. But this is an integrated continental market, and Americans suffer when the trade relationship with Canada suffers too. It
is interesting to me that they have not been able to reorient themselves as a party or as a media apparatus to this new reality. I want you all to take a listen. This is Abdul El-Sayed on Fox News just last night.
The issue that people are worried about is not that somehow somebody's going to come and push Sharia law on them. The issue in Michigan is people are worried about how they're going to afford their gas. You guys love to play this culture war game where you use these words that sound really foreign to avoid actually having to talk about the issues that everyday people like to talk about.
Should men play women's sports?
I'm running for U.S. Senate. Jesse, it's insane. I'm out here trying to take on like the healthcare crisis and big pharma, and you're asking me about who gets to play what sports. It's silly.
You seem a little naive, Abdul. I give you credit for facing the music, but some of the stuff's just straight up wacky.
You know you didn't ask me about?
What?
We got a president of the United States who cares more about the drapes in a ballroom that shouldn't be built than he cares about the war he just got us into, or that he cares about the affordability crisis. That seems to me to be a little bit wacky.
Angelo, I would say that they're off message, but they don't have an economic message.
No, they definitely don't have one at all. And, they're obviously going to be all over the place. And I think it sort of ties in a couple threads here. One, what Molly was referencing before, like, why is Trump doing this now? It's almost like he's acting like a guy that isn't concerned about any of the political or democratic checks or realities that typically govern a democracy, right? He doesn't seem to care. And then to your larger point about them not being able to reorient, it's across the ecosystem. It's not just Republicans, but as you saw in that interview, it's the rest of the traditional right-wing media. media ecosystem. Large parts of the other ecosystem, podcasters, people that are frontline, that sort of have to rely, or they're one step closer to their revenue models, they're a lot more adaptable because their bottom line gets affected much faster. But with Fox, this segment could have been something that happened 15 years ago on Fox News. Subject-wise, the way that they played it out, 30-minute interview where they sort of mine it for 90 seconds of content that they